Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to day 15 of my 100 Days of Discipline Challenge. Now, I wanted to sort of celebrate the 2-week mark by doing something a little bit different. Nothing like meditation or training, but more so reflective. I wanted to reflect on a couple things and just sort of reorder my perspective on important topics, right? I want to discuss society, and I want to discuss some of the factors which shape our North American society, and just kind of come to terms with a couple things, because I feel like I haven't dedicatedly thought about these things in totality for a very long time. But now that I'm sort of reacquiring some of my neurological integrity, and now that my brain is just working better, I guess, I do want to reorder the filing cabinet of these thoughts and try to come to terms with what I believe. See if it's still the same as what I used to believe years ago. It shouldn't be. There should be some variations to it, right? As long as I've been growing. But I guess I'll start with the prison system in North America, right? That's a very important topic to think about. And one of the most notable things that we need to establish first is that the countries of Denmark and Norway have the lowest recidivism rates in the entire world. And the reason why they have the lowest recidivism rates, there's multiple reasons. I'm going to be going into all of those reasons, right? Like, we have to factor in North America's horrendous food standard in Canada and the United States, which causes neurological degeneration, behavioral volatility, right? All these chemicals in food aren't just for show. They are meant to stupefy the population and make us more behaviorally erratic, right? And I think that contributes a lot to violent crime and recidivism rates in the United States and Canada. But the most important aspect, in my opinion, which governs the variation in recidivism rate between North America and, say, Norway or Denmark, is actually the way that they treat their prisoners. You see, North America is a Christian area, right? Canada and the United States are predominantly Christian countries, but so too are Denmark and Norway. So what's the difference in how those Christian values have shaped their prison system? Well, in North America, jail is kind of like a metaphor for hell, right? So you have crime, which is sin. You have the judge, which is God, telling you what you deserve and what you can and can't do. And then you have jail itself, which is hell itself, right? So essentially, you commit a sin, you get judged by God, you go to hell. That's how the Americans designed it, and Canadians, of course. But in Denmark and Norway, you can tell that they shaped it with Christian values, but the motivation was different. See, what they offer to prisoners in Norway and Denmark is salvation and redemption. The prisons are not steel and concrete hives of false hopes and broken dreams such as they are in North America. See, in North America, the entire goal of prison is not to reduce crime rates in society, it's to exacerbate them. I know that sounds like a stretch, but let me explain. Jail is such a tormenting, tumultuous, and horrible place in North America that it actually psychologically breaks people further, which increases their likelihood of behavioral volatility and recidivism upon release. That's why we have some of the highest recidivism rates in the world here in Canada and in the United States. Now, that's not the only reason. Of course, there's processed food contributing to it too. There's social inequities. There's income disparities. There's all sorts of different factors which contribute to that. But I honestly think that the reason why we have recidivism rates so high here is because it's by design. Because if we took care of our prisoners the same way that Denmark and Norway do, then cops, judges, criminal defense attorneys, and prison guards would be out of a job, right? They need that high turnover rate, and they need the high recidivism rate. So in essence, our judicial system, our prison system, serves to endanger the public more by fostering increased behavioral volatility in inmates before releasing them, right? And we do have a very high catch and release system. Simple truth is that our prisons are designed to nurture anger, fear, anxiety, And isolation, particularly isolation, is a big one in North American prisons. The best you have is a payphone, and the collect call rate is absurdly expensive, right? So I think we have an understanding of the North American system. Now, the Denmark and Norway prison system is more geared toward rehabilitation. So it's not a steel and concrete hive of false hopes and broken dreams. The gates don't clank shut behind you. Rather, what they have is sort of imitation communities where everybody fulfills a role. Everybody contributes. There's a grocery store. You have money to spend. You earn that money. You contribute to the whole. There's almost a redeeming cohesion to it where everybody's given a purpose, and that purpose rehabilitates their mentality and behavior. Now, of course, factor in the fact that they don't fluoridate their water and they don't have a horrible processed food standard like we do, and the end result is the low recidivism rate that they have, right? So that's the first really important thing I wanted to talk about, was how we both have a Christian society, but the way that we view the rehabilitation of criminals is vastly different. We seem to have a more punishment-geared ethic, or lack thereof, here in North America, while they have a more redemption and salvation ethic in Denmark and Norway. I feel like that's important to at least acknowledge. Even if we don't use the knowledge, it's important to think about, because I think it has implications for the future of our country if we don't address that, right? Just like processed food, which, thank God, RFK is finally in office, right? The next thing I want to talk about, actually, is the food standard. The food standard is probably the primary driver for all of our blights here in North America. So many ingredients in our processed food have not even been tested for safety. There is a loophole called GRAS. It is a FDA loophole called Generally Recognized as Safe. And essentially, this is how it works. You can fact check this yourself. If I'm a food company and I create a new ingredient for my food, all I have to do is hire an expert to verify the safety for me, and that's it. It becomes generally recognized as safe. I don't need third-party approval from the FDA. I don't need weeks or months of extensive testing, let alone years. And the word of that expert, no matter how much I decide to pay him under the table for a good review, is enough to give the green light to that ingredient, right? That's it. You can hire your own out-of-pocket expert. Doesn't matter where they come from. It matters very little what credentials they have. And if you look at several ingredients in the food in North America, they achieved this GRAS certification. It's hardly a certification at all. It's more of a trust me, bro. You know? Like, polyricinoleate is an emulsifier in chocolate bars right now. It has GRAS certification. It's never been tested for safety. And essentially, it allows food companies to replace cocoa in their chocolate bars with this stuff. It serves as chocolate filler, creating artificial mass in the bar, while simultaneously serving as an emulsifier and giving form, right? There's a lot of different ingredients like this in our food standard. It's a greater problem in the United States, but it's still a prevalent issue here in Canada. And I think that there's a reason for this, okay? And this is all going to seem a little tinfoil hat, so just follow me here. I think the reason why we value having a bad food standard in North America, it kind of ties in with the prison thing. We all know that the only cure for a corrupt government is civil war, uprising, basically, right? Now, I'm not condoning it. Let me preface this by saying I'm not trying to incite anything. But I'm observing a historical pattern where governments become corrupt, they motivate out of self-interest rather than the good of the people, and eventually the people have enough and you get acts like defenestration, guillotines, hangings, etc. You have the problem element in government being cleaned up and tidied and then replaced with idealistic new people, right? The reason why we fluoridate the water in North America, the reason why we have the heavily processed food, the reason why we have a prison system based on fostering trauma through condemnation, it all serves to suppress civil war in the face of corrupt regimes in government. Now, we had Trudeau for the last 10 years. I don't need to explain to you guys Canada's brand of corruption, right? Just like a lot of you had Democrats in the United States, you understand, and a lot of European countries even are teetering on the edge of totalitarianism. In the UK, there are priests being arrested for praying outside of abortion clinics. There are parents being arrested for criticizing the school board, being sentenced to, like, you know, being charged with hate speech and subsequently sentenced for it. And even in Germany, you have the AfD. There's a political party that has been labeled far right, and they're trying to ban that party over there. So, I mean, even Europe is teetering on the edge of totalitarianism, and we all know that it's because of the World Economic Forum, right? It's because of the amalgamation of interests between Vanguard, BlackRock, and other socio-political, like, corporate political collusions and corruption. Like, there's a clear cause for it, but I think that the reason why we have our food standard the way we do here, and the reason why we have our prison system the way it is because, and the fluoride in the water is because they want to suppress a civil war. All of that explanation aside, it's because they want to suppress a civil war and prevent it in the bud, right? And it works. It does work. We have dealt with so much corruption over the past several decades, and we've done nothing about it. And now we have congressmen and women in the United States who earn $200,000 a year salary, and yet they have net worths of millions of dollars, and nobody can explain how. We have rampant inflation everywhere, getting worse and worse, and we have excessive government spending. Like we're literally funding. I remember U.S. aid. One of the things they released was hundreds of billions of dollars for trans drag shows in Haiti. Like, why? Right? Well, the reason is because they want to manufacture inflation. See, I don't view inflation as a byproduct of a necessary good. I view it as something deliberately being caused to further weaken the public and de-incentivize an uprising. Because when you're so busy trying to survive financially, you have no energy left for an uprising. If people have to give everything they have just to achieve the bare minimum of survival, then they have nothing left for aspiring to believe they can thrive one day through open rebellion, right? It's all part of it. And I have my reservations about Donald Trump. I have to preface this by saying I do trust him, and I think that a lot of his appointments, like Musk as the Doge overseer and RFK as the Secretary of Health, I think these are all great decisions. Obviously, Tom Homan is doing a great job getting illegal immigrants out of the country, and I am of the mind that if you come into the country without due process, then you don't deserve due process when being forced out of it, right? But I have fears that Trump is just another World Economic Forum figurehead, right? I think we all, at least the critical thinking among us do, we have these worries that what we're seeing is political theater rather than an act of redemption, right? And it's scary to ponder that because time and time again, we have seen pharmaceutical companies, food companies get away with the worst crimes against humanity. You look at the pandemic several years ago, and you see a pattern of corporate political collusion where governments and corporations were working together to cause massive inflation, take away private and small businesses from people. A lot of people who didn't even get the vaccine ended up fired from their jobs here in North America, as if we didn't already have a firefighter shortage, a policing shortage, and a nursing shortage already. And it made it so much worse, right? And it begs the question, what's it all amounting to, right? I'm going to be wrapping up this little discussion soon. I just wanted to reorder my thoughts and kind of give you guys a few perspectives on things, like my perspective on things. And I hope that Trump is who he says he is. I hope the assassination attempts on him were not political theater, that it wasn't like, you know, that the shooter wasn't hired by him to make a production and incentivize the public vote, right? It's the difference between Trump and JFK is that JFK actually got killed. And I can't help but feel like if you're an assassin, you're not going to miss that shot. So I worry, right? But I want to believe in Trump. I want to believe in the administration. I want to believe that Carney won the election fair and square, but given the fact that the Liberals ruined this country for the past 10 years, and then we voted another Liberal in, I'm skeptical, right? So, I don't know. All this considered, use good judgment. Don't blindly trust anybody, because that is tantamount to pure stupidity. You should never remember, faith is for God, and cautious trust is for people. You do not have faith in people, unless you're retarded. That's just the way it is. You have to always hold people at arm's length. You don't know what motivates them. You don't know what self-interest they have, right? You don't know what deceptions they are capable of administering to the public eye. So take everything with a grain of salt. Question everything. Remember that the pharmaceutical industry is not your friend, right? I mean, I don't know, a lot of you might not know this, but the vaccines for the pandemic never received approval. What they received was emergency use authorization, so they knew full well that they were injecting something into everybody that was untested, potentially unsafe, and did indeed, verifiably now, cause a lot of secondhand side effects, right? So, oh, Tai, watch out, buddy. So just try to remember that there's something more going on. It's not just corporate corruption. It's not just greed. It's not just a need of more money from evil companies. It's collusion. It's actually a conglomerate of several aligning interests leveraged against the people. And I happen to believe it might be what Asmongold said. The way that we argue over race, over trannies, over anti-Semitism, all these things that we argue about, all these virtue signals that we levy against others, all these ideological differences that we have, it's a distraction from the class war. It's a distraction from the rich versus the poor. Because they know that once we figure that out, we're going to hold the government to account. And we're going to, as long as they distract us from the fact that the government is causing every single problem that we are living with, then we'll never fix the problem, right? And I think that's the goal. I think that's why we're divided by identity politics. I think that's why we are radicalized by mainstream and social media against one another. I think that's why videos go viral, is because they want them to. They want people to be radically charged against each other instead of uniting against the governments that are fucking us all over equally. Just bear that in mind. And never trust a politician, no matter what they say, no matter what they promise. Even if it's Trump, look, I've had blind spots for Trump and before, but you still got to be careful. I still got to be careful. We can't take, faith is for God, trust is for people. Cautious trust, right? So anyway, guys, thank you for joining me here on day 15 of my 100 Days of Discipline Challenge. It's been a wild ride so far, and I look forward to seeing how it continues. I hope that some of these views today have resonated with you. I hope that you've enjoyed the talk. Remember, my channel is a place where we always talk about this stuff, so if you feel like you have been censored for a long time, like your views have not been socially acceptable, then consider bringing them to my channel. Because we accept a lot of, typically right-leaning and conservative perspectives there. We're not an echo chamber, not really. Remember, I just told you that we can't really trust Trump. Not really. Cautiously, yes, but I'm not one of those people who's just, you know what Trump derangement syndrome is? There's also an opposite. There's people who you can't tell them that Trump might be evil, right? I feel like you need to be in the middle in order to be verifiably sane. You have to have skepticism. You have to be cautious because politicians lie professionally. They manufacture narratives. It's par for the course in what they do. So I think just remember that you're among good people here at Discipline Before Dishonor. You're among health-conscious people. You're among politically conscious people. You're among people who hopefully want to get to the bedrock of what's real beneath the superficial layer of what we're told to believe. Right? So, yeah. Take care, rock on. Peace out for now, my friends. I will see you next time I see you.